Welcome, everyone, to the April 4th meeting of the Lane Community College Board of Education. My name is Rosie Pryor. I'm the chair of the board, and I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask Pri to call the roll.
Mike Eister,
Here.
Austin Fulnagi,
Here.
Lisa Fragala,
Here.
Holly Johnson,
Here.
Steve Mittal,
Here.
Rosie Pryor,
Here.
Angela Van Kraus.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we always start our meetings now with a land recognition. And Dr. Shelley Tinkham, Vice President of Academic Affairs, will read our land recognition.
Good evening. Good evening, board members and Chairman Pryor and President Bolger. I'd like to start a meeting with the acknowledgement that the land we are on is the traditional homelands of the Kalapuya people. The Kalapuya were stewards of this very land for over 14,000 years before their traditional way of life was forever disrupted and destroyed. We start our meeting with humility and reverence for the original inhabitants, the Kalapuya.
Thank you very much. Are there any additions or adjustments to the agenda this evening? I have one. I intend to exercise the discretion of the chair and move the audit presentation to the first item right after the consent agenda. We have guests from out of town, and as a courtesy, we'll move that agenda item forward. Thank you for your support. So we'll do that. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved with the.
Thank you, Holly. Pri, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mike Eister,
Yes.
Austin Fulnagi,
Yes.
Lisa Fragala,
Yes.
Holly Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Mittal,
Aye.
Rosie Pryor,
Aye.
Angela Van Kraus.
Aye.
Thank you.
At our regular monthly board meetings, we welcome comment from any individual who wishes to address the board. We ask you to confine your comments to 3 minutes and advise that the board does not respond directly to issues raised, but refers those items to the president for appropriate action. Who is the first person?
We'll begin with Zoom. Skylar Servac. Apologies if I pronounced your name incorrectly.
Is
She's
that
not.
person online?
She's not online.
Okay,
Not- okay.
thank you. Paula Tony.
Why don't you say it again louder?
Paula Tony. Tony.
I am here now. Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I didn't expect to be the first called, but here I am. I have an anonymous letter from another faculty member who could not be here. And the concerns expressed in this letter I have as well. And this person has expressed them very eloquently. Today, I wanted to share the increasing concerns that I and my colleagues have about the rapid rise of AI chatbots, the impacts these are already having on academic integrity, and the need for secure in-person testing for our online classes at Lane. Academic honesty in online courses has been a concern for a while now. In my discipline, instructors have had to deal with sites such as Photomath, Symbolab, and Chegg being used to mine homework and even exam answers from the internet. While some of us have tried to be creative with our assessment methods to stay ahead of these online services, AI chatbots like ChatGPT represent a significant step up that we can't ignore. I've spent a lot of time playing around with ChatGPT, and it's pretty amazing how powerful it is. It can instantly give detailed solutions to complicated word problems and complete writing assignments in the voice of a student. I believe that our students want to be honest, but there is also enormous pressure on them to use ChatGPT and other websites when there's the impression that everyone else is using them. Some homework sites and AI chatbots like Cactus call themselves academic weapons and openly advertise they will free up your schedule by doing assignments for you. Students may feel like doing their work honestly puts them at a disadvantage when there are scholarships, admission to competitive programs, and job positions on the line. Anecdotally, a relative of mine recently went back to school and was disappointed to learn that she was a minority of her classmates who actually did their own work. It was common knowledge at her university that most students paid tutors to write papers and complete other assignments for them. And this is likely to become even more common now that AI chatbots can do these instantly for free. My relative was especially appalled that the institution and her instructors didn't seem to care or do anything about it. I don't want our students to have a similar experience at Lane. Beyond instructors' individual responsibility to promote academic integrity, though, I'm very concerned that failing to respond to this shift may hinder future student success initiatives we want to implement, and more broadly threatens our institutional integrity. Grades and success rates are used to make important decisions, and assigning grades is a serious responsibility. As faculty, we have the authority to determine what constitutes appropriate assessment, and many of us feel we have reached a point where in-person proctored testing is the only way to promote academic integrity moving forward. Indeed, some universities are now requiring documentation of secure proctored testing before allowing online credits to transfer. So we encourage you to keep this in mind when we request funding for the ITS, the testing services on campus. We really need that for our online students. Thank you very much, Board and President Bulger.
Thank you.
Should we go to Zoom?
Mhm.
Peggy Oberstaller.
You want to say it again?
Peggy Oberstaller.
There she is. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Bulger and board members. My name is Peggy Oberstaller, and I have been part-time health faculty at LCC for 19 years. I am also currently the LCCEA Vice President for part-time faculty. What travels faster than a Ferrari and carries over a quadrillion passengers? Take a seat on one of the billion neurons nested within the 3-pound mass sitting between your ears, commonly known as your brain. The signals emitted from one neuron to another are called synapses, and they are traveling at a speed in excess of 270 miles per hour. These synapses are sending messages and are the foundation of human thought. While the human brain makes up only 2% of the body, it is the source of what makes us, us. It determines who we are, what we do, how we move, and how we think, act, and react to experiences in the world around us. Data from a century of research in the science of learning shows that the use of different forms of engagement help create optimal learning experiences. This research is enhanced by findings that show how we learn is as important as what we learn. We are designed to learn by doing through repetition and practice alongside others. I belong to a group of college professors called Professors at Play. It is a global community of academics, teachers, and higher education professionals who share an interest in playful pedagogy. The group aims to trade ideas, provide encouragement and community, all while increasing the legitimacy of play in higher education. There are currently about 800 Professors at Play members. Many instructors already employ aspects of playfulness without knowing it. It can be as simple as sharing your own experiences, using humor, doing something unexpected, or making course materials visually appealing as well as instructive. One of my personal favorites is to outline assignment instructions using the theme of one of my favorite TV shows, Mission Impossible. So it says your mission, should you decide to accept it, is. There are not many experiences that allow us as adults to play. As a society, we reserve that for children. I'm here to support including aspects of play to increase learning in higher education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Holly Johnson.
Holly, did you mean to sign up to speak?
Okay, okay, good. Just making sure. Next, I have Sarah Erickson. She in there?
Sarah, are you there?
Sarah, we'll try promoting you one more time if you would like to speak. Okay.
No? Okay, well, that's what we have online. So now I will call Wendy Simmons to come to the podium. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Wendy Simmons. I'm a faculty member in the Health and PE department, and I'm reading a statement on behalf of a colleague who couldn't be here tonight. Good evening, President Bolger and members of the board. My name is Wendy Rawlinson, and I've been a math instructor at LCC since 1991. I've taught numerous math classes in the online format since prior to the pandemic-induced remote teaching period. Aside from the terms during which the campus was closed, I have always required my online math students to take in-person proctored pencil and paper assessments. This allows me to accurately assess their mastery and to give them personal feedback. Prior to our campus shutdown, I used instructional testing services and also proctored testing sessions myself. When ITS was not available, I worked very hard to accommodate all of my students' schedules, and it created a huge and unsustainable workload. For winter term, LCC's instructional testing services reopened with limited hours. I utilized ITS for assessments in my online class and also proctored some evening sessions myself, and it worked beautifully. I felt I was able to get an accurate read on my students' ability to demonstrate their mastery of our material without the use of cheat sites and apps that are prevalent and readily accessible when testing in an unsecured setting. It should be noted that students outside our geographical area have the ability to get an outside proctor approved and test in their geographic location. During the forced terms of remote learning, both educators and students had to scramble to find ways to move through classes. As a result of that experience, I believe that students have become accustomed to relying on online resources. They don't have the same understanding of academic integrity as educators, and often believe that they comprehend material much better than they actually do by reverse engineering from Photomath, Chegg, or any of the multitude of other resources. With the recent onslaught of AI technology, the need for secure assessment is now more urgent and critical than ever. Students are being inundated with messaging on how to use AI in their school settings. One AI site called Cactus AI touts itself as an academic weapon. If we as an institution don't ensure that our credits and grades are a truly meaningful measure of student achievement, employers and four-year institutions are likely to stop considering an LCC transcript credible. I fear that in the interest of prioritizing students' convenience, we could make our entire college and mission obsolete. It is our responsibility as educators to accurately and securely provide students and their future employers with feedback on their level of mastery. It is not just math that should be concerned with the use of AI tools during assessments and classwork. These tools are amazingly versatile, and I believe they will likely change the entire landscape of education. The LCC Math Department recently voted to require all of our math classes above Math 20 to be offered in the online with in-person testing modality starting in the fall of 2023. I suspect that other disciplines will soon discover that they need in-person secure testing as well. As such, the need for a robust ITS is now more important to our college than ever. In this evolving landscape, it is my fervent hope that the college will fully support a fully staffed ITS with expanding hours, including some weekends and evenings, in order to accommodate secure testing needs in a way that honors our students' busy lives and our responsibility to make their assessments meaningful. Thank you for your time and consideration. Wendy Rawlinson, Mathematics.
Thank you.
Eric Kim.
Good evening, Lane Community College Board of Education, Dr. Bolger. My name's Eric Kim. I teach psychology in the social science department. There's value in learning the social sciences and psychology outside the classroom. Learning about parenting styles can help students make better choices and improve relationships with others. Parenting styles have two basic components: rules that vary from absent to present, and relationships that vary from cold to warm. Neglectful parents have no rules and a cold relationship. Permissive parents have no rules and a warm relationship. Authoritarian parents have rules and a cold relationship. Authoritative parents have rules and a warm relationship. Real parents vary along the spectrum, but when teaching about parenting styles, I tend to exaggerate the differences to help students understand them. But I want to focus on the authoritarian and the authoritative parenting styles. Authoritarian parents have rules for the household, no ands, if, or buts. I don't care about the impacts or the needs of the children. These children of the parents, on average, tend to be fearful, unhappy, and less spontaneous. The authoritative parents have rules for the household, but are flexible. They listen to their children. The rules are guidelines. They explain the rules and the importance of the rules and make exceptions when necessary. The children of these parents, on the average, tend to have higher achievement, are more cheerful, and more self-reliant. I tell my students to choose to use their knowledge of psychology for good and not evil. Be an authoritative, not authoritarian. Be a Picard, not a Vader. If we want better outcomes for our children, strive for an authoritarian parenting style. Develop rules for your children, such as you need to brush your teeth, you need to go to school, you need to get a good night's rest, you need to have a nutritionally balanced diet. In addition to the rules, the parents need to explain the importance of the rules and be flexible when appropriate. Not all students plan on being a parent, so hopefully they can apply their knowledge broadly. They can apply the basic principles of parenting to interpersonal relationships, or as leaders, choose to use your knowledge of psychology for good. Be a Jean-Luc Picard, not a Darth Vader. Picard has rules for his crew to follow, but does so in a warm and caring way. He explains the rules. Vader has rules for his crew to follow, but he does so in a cold and uncaring way. Students can use the knowledge to foster good relationships with their peers, or they can use it to be good leaders. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to try to get Skylar to join and provide comment. Skylar Serbak.
Hi, Skylar. Did you intend to sign up for public comment? If so, if you unmute your phone, you can speak.
Hi, sorry, could you please repeat yourself?
Hi, Skylar. Skylar, did you intend to sign up for public comment this evening?
No, I just plan to attend as just a public attendee.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah Erickson, did you also intend to provide public comment today? If not, then we can move on.
Okay. Apparently that's everyone. Thank you all for commenting this evening. That takes us to our president's report.
Well, welcome to the spring term. Spring term began on Monday, and the enrollment increased 4.7% on day one. We're looking for the official report in week 4. I have some other good news. The Native American Student Association hosted the annual Lane Powwow on Saturday, April 1st. We are incredibly proud of all of the press, the media that we received. Thank you also to Longhouse steward DJ Worley for an outstanding event. The other piece of good news is Senate Bill 523. The Bachelor of Science in Nursing legislation just passed out of the Senate Education Committee, so it's moving forward. And I'd like to give some recognitions. to 6 award recipients. There are groups of recipients that received the Schaefer Award, which is in conjunction with the LCC Foundation and Academic Affairs. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. Are there any items that board members wish to remove from the consent agenda?
I move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
That was Austin, Mike, and then Austin. And would you call the roll, please?
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Fulnagi,
Aye.
Lisa Fragala,
Aye.
Holly Johnson,
Aye.
Steve Mithal,
Aye.
Rosie Pryor,
Aye.
Angela Van Cross.
Aye.
Thank you.
The consent agenda is passed. That brings us to a revised agenda discussion item, audit report. Dr. Bulger?
Yes, we'd like to have our auditors and Marlene Rocha come to the podium, perhaps introduce our auditors.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Kenneth Coons and Company CPAs, Mr. Coons, Kenneth Coons, and Darren Bourne. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bulger, members of the board. It's our pleasure to be here this evening to present the audit report. Darren, as audit manager, is going to make a couple comments, and then I'll go ahead and go into our opinions.
Thank you. I thought I would just start by just touching briefly on the audit process this year. The field work and the bulk of the audit field work that was done this year began in October, and it stretched over a few months this year. There was some staffing changes in the college finance area, and a lot of the institutional knowledge kind of had to be reestablished as it related to preparing information for the audit. But I can say that steady progress was made throughout that time period, and a lot of hard work by everyone involved. And it was about the end of January, beginning of February, when we had the work wrapped up and we had all of the information, all of the questions answered that we needed to be able to express the opinion on financial statements.
Basically, there were 3 reports issued. There's the regular audit report, there's a separate single audit report, and there's a report on KLCC FM radio station. I'm going to address the opinion on page 1 of the audit report. In essence, it says that management has the responsibility for the financial statements. The financial statements are based on records maintained here at the college. Our opinion is at the top of page 1. It does indicate that there's the college's financial statements and there are the foundation's financial statements in a separate column. The foundation's financial statements were audited by other independent auditors. So our opinion on those statements is based on their report. So basically, this indicates that we performed an audit, and in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of Lane Community College and Lane Community College as of June 30, 2022, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is an unmodified opinion on the financial statements contained herein. It's often called a clean opinion. It's the best opinion that any entity can earn, and I emphasize earn, as it was earned by Lane Community College. In the separate single audit report, that's a report on about $36 million of federal funds that the college received. That also had a clean opinion. We were asked to address KLCC FM radio. KLCC FM radio report consists of the radio station and its component unit, which is KLCC Public Radio Foundation, a separate not-for-profit entity. That also received a clean opinion. Basically, that's our report on the financial statements, and we'd be happy to address questions and comments that the board may have.
Questions from board members? Austin?
By the way, thank you so much for all the work in this. I had a question in regards to, because part of the audit was used in a analysis that we did as an institution through some consultants of ours. And part of what they used in their analysis was how debt was calculated by the institution. And they were, in the audit, is the debt of the bond measure and things of that nature, is that included as debt and as debt to the institution in the audit?
Sure. So within the audit report, there's really two sets of statements. Towards the back, you'll see information into fund budget versus actual statements for, say, the general fund, the debt service fund, some of those entities. Within those statements, you will not find long-term debt. However, up at the front, these are the statements that our opinion is really based on. These are called the entity-wide financial statements. And what those do is take all of the other funds in the back, compress them together, more or less, and also pick up some other information such as capital assets and long-term debt, which are not normally seen in the fund financial information. So the statements at the front of the report do contain all of the long-term debt. That includes pension bonds, general obligation, construction bonds, pension liabilities, and other types of debt.
Understood. And obviously for
Go ahead.
Oh, obviously for assets, buildings obviously are assets and so forth. Is land also calculated in the asset, and how is that calculated?
Land is included within capital assets. It is normally valued at the acquisition cost, whatever the price paid for the land, and it is not depreciated from that point. So it stays. Other asset types like buildings and equipment do get depreciated out over time.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much.
Mike?
So I'm a little bit confused by the answer to the first question. It's my understanding that the state is repaying the bond debt, not LCC. Do I misunderstand that?
I guess, are you referring to the state's bonds that provide? The state does issue bonds, I believe, and they then take that money, provide it really in the form of a grant to the college to help pay for some of the construction costs. But the college does have capital bonds as well, general obligation bonds approved by the voters that do get repaid from property tax levies. So perhaps there's both.
Well, I guess my question is, how is that LCC's debt?
That debt issued by the state for capital construction would not be reflected in college's statements.
My understanding from our consultants that Austin referred to was that they considered that to be debt, to be LCC's debt.
Well, basically, bonds that were issued by LCC are being paid from property taxes that are levied on district constituents. There are pension bonds.
I'm not talking about those.
Okay. No, the regular general obligation bonds, you're paying for those. They're reflected in here. The principal payments, the interest payments are reflected in the financial statements.
So when you say you're paying, you mean LCC is paying or the state is paying?
LCC, Lane Community College.
Go ahead.
The only time the state assists us with capital costs is when, like right now, we're requesting $8 million for the renovation of Math and Science Building 16. when they approve capital funds, they sell the bond, and it's basically a matching grant that they provide to institutions. So we received $8 million for the health professions building 6 years ago. That was done, the state sold the bonds on that. The state took on the debt. So the debt for that $8 million, the state owns, but they provide that to us as a matching grant. The rest of our bond measure, that's debt that we take on as a college, the $121.5 million, and that's paid for by the taxpayers of our district.
So it may feel like it's not LCC's debt, but it is. It's just that we have at hand a ready source of revenue to make our debt payments. Lisa?
It's just confusing to me. I mean, we aren't going to go to a cabinet and open it up and pull out $121 million and repay that debt. That's being paid for.
But we did the sale. So we benefited when the voters approved to pay back the 121.5, we did the bond sale. I think we managed to pull 140 some million dollars from that sale.
Mhm.
But the college did the bond sale, took on that debt, knowing that the taxpayers approved it to make the payments on that over the next 20 years.
So then it appears that the assumption by the consultant was accurate and correct.
Yes, it was. As my recollection is that it was Annette Parker was the consultant that I think verified that as well.
Yeah,
I think that she said it's your debt. It really is your debt.
Thanks.
Lisa?
Yeah, I guess my question is similar to Mike's, and I get that it's our debt. Like nobody needs to explain that to me, but we're not taking money from our own general fund, from tuition dollars or anything like that to pay that back. That's coming from taxpayers paying a property tax. So I guess the question for me is like, how do we think about that in terms of what our debt load is when we don't have to use our tuition or student fund from the state to actually pay that debt? It's covered by another source. So is that reflected in our evaluation?
To me, our question is best addressed to the consultants who presented to us their observation that the college has an outsized amount of debt. The question for them is, how are you defining debt? When I think about our $121 million bond measure, it's not unlike taking out a mortgage on a house, and because you have a job, you have a ready source of income to make the payment. Well, we have a ready source of income to make the payment on our bond indebtedness. That doesn't mean it's not our debt. It is our debt, just like a mortgage is my debt. And if I default on it, it's on me. It's not on my employer. It's on me. So I'm not sure that our auditors are the ones to answer these particular questions of definition tonight, as much as it would behoove us to perhaps direct these questions by way of follow-up to our consultants. Now that we've had some time to kind of digest and think about the presentation they made to us. Mike?
Well, I appreciate the comments and I agree. You guys have done what you're supposed to do. I would like to put a placeholder here because the reason it's important is because they made assumptions about ratios that are really we need to get to the bottom of Lisa's question to determine if those assumptions are accurate and correct.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah.
And just really quickly, we did ask the consultants and they said to ask the auditors. So that's part of the reason. Yeah. So that's part of the reason for this line of questioning. But I guess like just something I can potentially ask though, because of the report and so forth, that type of debt, as far as the health of the institution and the health of an audit and the financial audit of the institution, that type of debt, I hate to use the concept of good debt, bad debt, but it's essentially, does it fall in that kind of same category of like, this is good debt because we're reinvesting into the institution's infrastructure?
Well, the debt was incurred for a purpose, and if it's going to be to build facilities, to provide educational opportunities for your students, I call it good debt.
Excellent.
So other questions? Holly, Angela, any questions for our auditors? Colleagues? Thank you very much for being here tonight and sharing the results of the audit with us.
And thank you for the opportunity to present this to the board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to turn back to our agenda. Our next action item is tuition recommendation. Dr. Bolger?
Thank you. We would like to ask Marlene Rocha to come to the podium again and also have a presentation. We'd like to walk through a presentation briefly for the board and allow the board to have a discussion about our tuition recommendation this evening.
Hello again. Sorry, didn't expect to be back on so soon. Tuition recommendation. We'd like to go through this presentation with you and hopefully discuss our situation.
Next slide,
Next
please.
slide, please. Okay. Background. This is a continuation of February 15th budget and tuition discussion. The presentation development is based on the 15th board's session and recommendations of the Budget Development Subcommittee and the Student Government Association input are some of the background items that have been reviewed and are contributing to this report. Next slide, please. Okay, tuition assumptions. The governor recommended a budget of $748 million. This was $107 million below the $855,000 that the community colleges were seeking. The Ways and Means Committee came back with a figure of $745 million, which was even lower than what the governor had presented. So other factors and assumptions that we're taking into consideration are the CCSF model, the HEPA rate, which is 5.2%, the impact of union agreements and peers obligations, small successive increases in tuition, and our enrollment. Next slide, please. So we wanted to show you what the cost of tuition looks like compared to the total cost of attendance. So back in 2017, 2018 school year, tuition was 20.74% of $16,704. The cost for the current year of tuition is 21.27% of a total tuition of $20,335.38. So that's really a 0.53% increase over that span of time. Next slide, please. Here we wanted to show the cost of attendance compared with other colleges. So you will see that Lane Community College is at $22,243, and that we are below the state average by $305. Statewide average is $22,548.
Marlene, may I also add for the board is that when you look at this slide in particular, looking at the total cost of attendance really puts our tuition and our tuition increases into some context. And so we are not the highest in cost institution in terms of total cost of attendance. And that's also what we wanted you to see here.
Thank you. So what we wanted to do with the scenarios was picked up where we left off with February 15th. Scenario 1 is the current tuition level that was presented at the $59.7 million, zero tuition change, current tuition rate of $132.50, and the general fund deficit of $4.5 million. Scenario 2 is what we wanted to present was tuition that is less than or greater than 800 million. Using the 748 million that the CCSF for the CCSF, which was the Way and Myers committee figure, which came in below the governor's. Tuition we would recommend tuition at a 5% increase, which would put us at $139.13 and leave us with a deficit of 3.1 million. Scenario 3 is between the 800 million and the 855 million, with a tuition increase of 4%. Tuition rate would be 137.8, and a deficit would end up being approximately 1.1 million, 1.2 million. In scenario 5, if we were to get everything we asked for at 855, tuition would be a 3% increase with a rate of 136.48. And it would give us a surplus of 642,000.
Before we move on to the next slide, just for the board, we wanted to present these different scenarios for the board to consider. We have been following very, very closely how the state is taking a look at the CCSF for the community colleges, what that fund is going to be. We believe that it may fall below $800 million. And so we want you to show you what the impact would be at different percentage increases of tuition. We would like for the board to consider all of these. We do have one recommendation this evening, but we certainly want the board to consider all of them. So what we have given to you is scenario 2, which is less if what we are receiving as community colleges is less than or equal to $800 million, we're asking for a 5% tuition increase. If for some reason what we are receiving is greater than $800 million, but less than $855 million, then that is, I believe, the 4% increase. So you can see that there's an inverse relationship between the amount of money that the community colleges may receive and what we are asking in terms of a tuition increase. Here's our recommendation. We pulled that out of the scenarios, and we are recommending a 5% increase.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Education approve the recommended tuition rates for 2023 and 2024.
Second. Been moved and seconded that the board approves scenario 2. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Absolutely. Would you mind moving up to one more slide to the different scenarios? Budgets reflect values. During the governor's debates, they didn't agree. We had 3 governor candidates. They didn't agree on anything. They agreed on one thing, though: community colleges and how important community colleges are. And I heard our state representatives speak about community colleges. We went up to Salem and lobbied for community colleges, and we heard a bunch of support from our state legislators. And I am appealing to our state leaders and to their constituents that this is important, that we fund community colleges. This is the choice that we have because of the funding recommendation from the co-chair's budget. There's other choices that we have here. They're right here in front of you. And I ask for our leaders and our constituents to reach out to your leaders to tell them that they have options, they have choices here to properly fund community colleges and to give us a better chance of supporting our students and supporting our communities. I mean, the big conversation up in Salem right now is semiconductor chips and the I-5 bridge. And guess what? You can't really, you have to have a skilled and educated workforce in order to bring companies into our community so they can produce semiconductor chips and to build our bridges and to build our infrastructure. So I want to emphasize that, along with the fact that our institution serves underserved populations and create a better economic situation for the entire state of Oregon. So I make this motion obviously so that we can pass our tuition rates, but I want to again advocate to our leaders up in Salem that we want a better option than the scenario 2 that we have in front of us. And I ask for that additional support up in Salem.
Mike?
So if we lock in on a 5% increase and later Salem comes up with 804 or 855,000 or million, are we committed to the 5%? How do we keep this flexible?
We would like to, as much as possible, keep it flexible. However, we have quite a lot of operational work to do in order to prepare for students starting in the summer term and students starting in the fall term of this year. We would like to be able to do that, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to. So we are asking the board this evening to make a decision about the tuition increase. Just to add a little bit of context about that too, last year we were, in 2022, the board did approve a tuition increase of about 5% as well. And just one more thing, just in terms of full transparency, my understanding is that tuition must be rounded up to the nearest 50 cents. Is that right?
It might be a board policy. I'm not positive, but it's been standard practice that it's usually rounded up to the nearest dollar or 50 cents.
Okay,
So-
Mike wanted to finish and
Well,
then
if we lock in on $5, what incentive does the legislature have to provide $855 million? Or if we lock in on 5%?
But I wonder if you could provide some context for some of the deliberations that you've heard so far. And certainly our indicator has been the Ways and Means Committee and what they did most recently.
Yeah. It's been a frustrating session, to say the least. We're one of a handful of budgets that is being proposed to be funded below current service level. And that's the state's current service level, which is far below what we have determined to be the current service level. But many state budgets, including K-12, are being funded above current service level. It might not be the level they want, but it's above the state's current service level. So I think, it would take a lot to get us to 800 million right now. Keep in mind, it's a 2-year budget cycle for the state. So if they do come back better than we expect, you can make adjustments next year if that's your preference. Sometimes that's a little easier for students to plan and for everything that goes on behind the scenes here. A lot of, where we end up is going to be very much dependent on that May revenue forecast right now. And so I wish I had better news, but this is the first time in 2 decades of me doing this work where we've seen a budget number come in lower from the co-chairs than the governor's budget. So it's definitely not where we thought we would be.
I would also say, before, I know Steve has a question there, wants to make a comment. I think the motion on the table is for the next biennium, for the next 2 years. And certainly we would bring this topic back next year, as we always do. And the board would have an opportunity to make a different decision next year.
Are you?
Well, I just wanted to be clear then, we are talking about 5% tuition increase without hope that that any of the other 3 scenarios might happen.
Well, and this is the unfortunate task that you have every 2 years, correct? I mean, you're usually in a position where you have to set tuition and you don't know what level the state's going to fund us at. Many of the universities committed to keeping tuition increases no more than 5%. That was before the co-chairs budget came out, and many of them have already set tuition rates for next year, but are now reconsidering those rates and might have to go higher than 5% because of the co-chairs proposed funding level.
Steve?
Stephanie, why wouldn't we vote in a proposal that actually endorsed all three, scenario 2, 3, and 4 simultaneously? And then just worked off of whatever the state ultimately settled on a few months from now.
That's very fair. That's very fair because what we would like to do, however, is, and it was made acutely aware on Monday at one of our meetings, that the operations really need to start now in order to prepare for the summer and the fall term. In the biennium, this work is manual work. And when we have the even years, then that work is not manual work, but we would have a longer runway because we would bring the tuition discussion to you in February as opposed to April. So that's the reason for this. We would love to have that kind of flexibility, but to give students the maximum opportunity to plan to come to college, to come to Lane Community College, we'd like to have the 5% agreed to today.
Lisa?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to address your question, Mike, and just to say that I've actually been talking to our state representatives and some of them in leadership, and we should not be optimistic about getting close to 800, or I think getting over it. That's the reality of this budget cycle. I think it's the reality of the impact of trying to match federal dollars around the CHIP investments. It's just not going to be a great budget cycle for us. So, but I also agree that I don't think we can wait. And I don't think we can adopt multiple tuition levels because the college has to function, and it has to function for students, and that we need to get ready for the summer, right? And so I clearly hear a lot of good rationale and thinking behind this recommendation. I am certain that our president doesn't take it lightly. And I see that it's based on a range of well-supported thinking. And so I am going to support the recommendation for scenario 2 for a 5% tuition increase.
Mike, did you?
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion as well. I was asking all these questions because I was under the impression that our strategy was going to be to present these options to the legislature, let them pick. It's clear to me that we don't have time to do that. I understand that we need to advertise a tuition rate so that we can get that in the literature and so that students can make plans. So I am supporting this motion.
Speaking to, if I might add, that we have been asked by the OCCA, by the Oregon Community Colleges Association, to provide information to them, and all of the community colleges are asked to do this. If we receive $748 million, what is going to be the impact to our institution? We're including the 5% tuition increase, but we're including a lot of other potential scenarios that could potentially affect our institution. So that is the pressure that we're all going to be placing on the legislature as a collective, all 17.
Yeah.
So other comments or questions from colleagues? Angela, Holly? Steve?
To be clear, the urgency that you're suggesting that we're operating under now is because we need to set rates for summer 23 now because to give students time to plan, as you said. That's the main urgency on our?
That's the main urgency. Otherwise, we would accept the different scenarios that the board would approve, and we would wait until May until we have a final number, and then we would make a decision.
So this may be a little bit of an aside, something that we can't resolve right here and now, but do we have the flexibility to set tuition rates such that they cover through the summer, for start, when we did this last year, that they would have covered through this summer so that when we get to this point, every 2 years, we are not we're not putting ourselves in the situation where there's this tiny little bit of time to turn around a budget based on the state's budget, where really what we're doing is starting to plan for the fall. This is a suggestion for the future, so we don't just put ourselves through this every couple of years.
We accept that suggestion, and we'll take that back because I would like to have a conversation. I see Dawn back there. Would love to have a conversation with Student Affairs about that.
Angela?
Thank you. I certainly appreciate that a lot of work and thoughtfulness has gone into this recommendation, and that the goal, of course, is to maintain the current service level, and to do that, tuition increase appears to be necessary. I guess I don't feel that this level of tuition increase that we continue to have every year is itself sustainable. And I think it's a symptom of a larger problem that our colleges is too large for its funding base. I will not be supporting the tuition increase recommendation, although I appreciate all of the work that's gone into bringing it.
Austin, and then I'm going to make a comment and then we're going to vote.
Of course. Could you speak a little bit in regards to the student input in this conversation? It was mentioned in a previous slide about the student input.
Yes, the student input and the student government may speak to that this evening. The students did take a look at, they were given an opportunity, I would say, to take a look at the tuition increase. And some of the rationale that we receive from the Student Government Association is that while tuition increases are not optimal, no one likes tuition increases. This is a modest increase, and students would not reject this kind of increase, nor would it impact students from coming to Lane. And that's what we want to avoid.
Thank you.
So I want to make a quick comment and then I'm going to ask Pri to call the roll because we've reached our time limit on this topic. I'm not going to support this proposal either for philosophical reasons. It's interesting to hear Austin say that budgets reflect values, and my values don't support this perpetual tuition increase machine that is Lane Community College. This isn't the first tuition increase for me, or even the 5th tuition increase for me, or even the 10th tuition increase for me. It's the 12th out of 12 years of board service. And my philosophy about community colleges is that the goal is that they are the accessible alternative to the expensive state four-year institutions and private institutions that aren't affordable. In this very room, in months past, a comment has been made that our own employees deserve 6% and 8% wage increases because of inflation, but it doesn't feel like that same value is applied to students who are suffering the same effects of inflation that everyone else is experiencing. So I want to hasten to add that I'm very, very much appreciate the hard work of President Bolger and her team on this topic. I don't underestimate how painful it is to do this work and to make these recommendations, but I just cannot support one more tuition increase. Steve? And then we're done. We're really done. We have to vote.
Would you go back to the first scenario, the 4 scenarios? I know it won't, just based on the conversation, that I don't expect scenario 1 to be the one selected this evening, but let's just say it did prevail, and we had a $4.5 million deficit. What kinds of actions would you take?
The actions, we would consider a lot of different options. As you know, salaries represent the largest portion of the budget, and we would need to take a hard look at that. We'd need to take a hard look at services. As the consultants said also, you may recall, we need to take a hard look at our programs. So any of our services, our programs, our salaries, those would be the areas that we would need to take a hard look at, because there's a there's a policy that requires the administration to have 10% of expenditures, I believe, in the ending fund balance. And I am required to give the board a 3-year plan to get to that point. And that would pressure the administration to make some very, very hard decisions.
So for those of us, Angela at least suggested she was in this camp. I might be there myself. That we're too big. That we need to right size. Budgets 2, 3, 2, 3, and 4 say, well, let's just keep going and hopefully it'll change. Budget 1 is the one that says that would force some real reckoning and potential right sizing. Is that about right in your estimation? I'm not saying that that's what you want to do, but is that what a vote for scenario 1 would ultimately signal to you and the administration?
It certainly would signal, if the board voted on that and there was a majority, then that would certainly signal the tenor of the board.
Okay, thank you, board members, for a really thoughtful conversation. And Pri, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Fulnagi,
Aye.
Lisa Fragola,
Aye.
Holly Johnson,
Nay.
Steve Mattel,
Nay.
Rosie Pryor,
No.
Angela Van Cross.
No.
Thank you.
So the motion fails. Would you like to make a different motion?
No, I'm not prepared to.
Would anyone like to make a different motion? Yes, Mike.
I'd like to suggest that we set aside time to continue to talk about this. I don't think we can leave the administration
No,
in the
I
lurch.
agree.
We have to have a decision for them. And I don't, well, I'm not happy with the idea of saying that we turn that down so it's 0. I think we need more time to talk about it.
Okay, how about we budget 10 more minutes on this topic? Mike?
So since shortly after Dr. Bolger got here, I have been twisting her arm about we may not be the right size. I've heard all those arguments. And I don't want to speak for you, but the message I heard from you is your preference is that that you have an opportunity to have our budget and our size match up, and that you have confidence in our capacity, your administrative team's capacity to bring that about. That's what's left me, taken me out of the camp of right size for right now. I don't know if you'd like to say more.
I would like to say more. We need some time. What we have done, which I have been impressed by this institution since I came in. When I came in, we were getting daily enrollment numbers, and the fall term there was negative enrollment. It was about 10%. And I said, this is not the direction that we need to go. We started putting effort in an enrollment campaign, and the entire institution rallied together to increase the enrollment. It didn't start in the fall term, but it wasn't 10% down. It was 3.5% down. In the January, it was 7.4% up. That's pretty astounding. Over the last 10 years, it's been down. And then in January of 2023, it was up. It's also up this term. I recognize that the confidence will not be there in our enrollment increases until next year or even the year after. So we must sustain that. My thinking is that the institution needs to be given an opportunity to do that. There are many things in place to sustain that enrollment momentum. We need a bridge funding. There was bridge funding that was on the table at one time for at the state level, $855 million plus an additional $50 million, which would have been about $4 million to Lane Community College to assist us with bridge funding through the pandemic. That would have allowed us to be able to move to a stronger place. But if we do not have that opportunity to do that, to have something to bridge us between now and next year, then we will need to face some hard realities.
Austin?
When we had the consultants talk to us and present to us in regards to the size of our institution, they weren't saying anything about right sizing or downsizing or anything like that. They were saying that we need the infrastructure in place in order to support our students. And if we see increases in enrollments, which we are, that we have the capacity to serve them. Scenario one would reduce the capacity of our institution to provide wraparound services to our students, provide services that can be essential to many of these students that are underserved and have many barriers to education and to get into educational institutions. So I just wanted to state that. I'm going to make a motion and I'm going to rely on Michael to tell me if I can make this motion or not. To do scenario 2 with the options of if additional funding is available for option 3 and 4. Because my understanding is I can't make a motion, the exact same motion again, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So would my motion of scenario 2, but if there is additional state funding, such as in scenario 3 and 4, that we would pursue those at a later date?
I think that would be a permissible motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Would you like to speak to your motion? Could you restate it for the,
Yes, and again, please correct me, that we choose scenario 2, but if we by chance get additional funding from the state, which would allow for something like a scenario 3 and 4, that we would pursue that at a later time. Is that the best way to word it? Yeah, okay.
okay, I have Steve and then Lisa and then Mike.
Well, I had an alternate proposal, but I recognize we have to complete the process that we're in first, and then I guess I'll take that on.
Okay, Lisa?
So I just wanted to ask Dr. Bolger that Mike asked you, I thought I heard Mike ask you that based on conversations that he's had with you, that you don't agree that now is quote unquote the right time for us to do such drastic, impactful cuts to the college, this quote unquote restructuring. And what I thought I heard you say is that we need to continue to make investments to create this bridge. And so was I understanding that correctly?
You were.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
So this isn't set up so that we can put numbers in and see how it adjusts things. Or maybe what I'm wondering about is if we said 4% and we didn't get the 804 million, what does that do to the general fund deficit?
It will increase it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't
I've
do
got
it.
you.
Yeah,
here,
okay.
but I can do it on my desk.
yeah.
May I also just add that we know that that the work will be onerous, but we will pledge to do the work. We will wait for information as much as we can. I'm looking at our student affairs area. They really, really need the time. So in some cases, Lane Community College has one person in an area or 2 people in an area to do this work. So it really can be onerous.
Steve and then Mike.
Stephanie, I'm also wondering if to resolve the situation we now find ourselves in, whether trying to do that right here and now is the best time, whether the alternate could be we decide to meet a week from now after you've all had some time to digest this and come up with, some kind of a proposal, given the signals being sent here tonight, whether that might get us to a more productive and because I think there's probably a range of reasons why people voted nay, and it might behoove us to, you to sort through those with, one-on-one meetings with board members, which you're allowed to do, and see where that leads you. And a week from now, we could meet in a special session if needed.
I'd like that opportunity.
Mike, you had your hand up again?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, I've been in Don's position before. And you really do need those numbers because students can't make decisions without those numbers. So we might have some wiggle room, but I bet it's not a lot.
I would agree.
that's what I'm
1
thinking.
week is good.
We have a motion on the floor.
And
Do you
may-
want to
may-
withdraw it or
Oh,
do
no,
you want to
no.
vote on it?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to maybe speak to my motion
Okay.
really quick. And to those who, I want to appeal for those who voted no in the first motion that actually, could we go back a slide, one more slide, which is yeah. And actually one more slide, I apologize. And I hate to do this again. One more slide. There it is, which is that the higher. So once again, I'd like to appeal to those who voted no on the first motion is that first, this is a way for us to move forward with potential scenario 2 and other options, depending on what happens with the state final budget and with the May economic forecast. And we are in the higher edge and this 5% increase, which by the way, the students, they obviously, they supported it. They think that it is something that can be accomplished and is something that we can pursue and falls under the higher education price index. So I want to ask the board members who voted no to please reconsider and to vote yes on this proposal.
I want to make sure that Angela and Holly are
Oh, yeah, of
heard and
course.
we're at the 10 minutes we allowed. So I need the indulgence of my colleagues that we continue to work on this for 5 more minutes. Angela and then Holly.
I had a point of order question, I think. I was hoping perhaps the motion could be restated, and I actually didn't hear a second. Was the motion seconded?
Yes, I second it.
I'm very much open to friendly amendments.
Was that all you needed, Angela?
Also a restatement, if possible. I'm not clear what the motion on the table actually is.
Okay.
It's scenario 2 with something about if we get extra money, we do something.
That, yeah. I wish someone would read it back to me. No, yeah, because the reason is I cannot, we cannot redo the motion of scenario 2. So scenario 2, but if we get additional funding from the state, potentially like a one-time $50 million pandemic bridge fund, that it would be possible for either a scenario 3 or scenario 4, so that at a later time that we can pursue a scenario 3 or 4 if we get the proper
So is that
funding.
clearer, Angela?
It's still not super clear to me how it's different. Pursuing at a later time could mean next year, which doesn't actually make a different motion than the one that was already failed. I guess I'm just not clear exactly what the implications of voting yes for it would be, or what the implications of voting no for it would be. But I do want to make sure Holly gets a chance, so I will stop.
I want to let Holly have the opportunity. Holly?
Thank you, Angela, and thank you for this presentation. I do agree with Chair Pryor in that community college is supposed to be affordable, right? I also understand that we still need to operate, right, and continue our operation. I need clarification. If we were to approve the recommendation that was put forth for 5% tuition, is there a possibility in the future between now and the biennium that we would have to, the board would be faced with increasing that pressure to increase that because we didn't get X plus Y, whatever amount from the state? Or would we be locked in at this 5% without the flexibility well, we mentioned there may be a flexibility somewhere to change that to go down, but is it possible? Is it also that it can go up because we didn't get enough money? And when would that happen? I'm just a little confused. If we vote on it today and in favor of the recommendation that was put forward, are we locked in at that?
So to partially answer that question.
Shall we let President Bolger address that?
Sure, sure. No, I don't foresee the tuition going up, the percentage going up. When the board looks at this next year, I don't foresee that. I do foresee potentially it going down, but not going up.
Well, we got a sense of the climate that we're probably not going to get what we're expecting from the state. Hopefully we will. Let's all go and do what we have to do with our representatives as far as lobby. But let's say we didn't get what we want, and I don't see the fund. Let's say we don't get a lot from the state, nowhere between the 800 and the 855. Then what? Where are we going to make up the difference? Is it going to be in tuition again, or are we going to go somewhere else?
The college has options for raising revenue and options for cutting expenses. If the college was facing a deficit and there was no more option for additional revenue, it's faced with cutting expenses.
So whether we support tonight and say zero, nay, and stay with, and I'm not in support of a zero tuition. I understand that we need something. I'm just not sure that 5% is it for an institution who's struggling to get tuition up. And I don't see how this is going to motivate our students to return back to school and or to start college education at Lane Community College with this hike. I think it would have been helpful to hear that there was some money coming to those students from somewhere else, such as financial aid, federal grants, but
well, what we know is that slightly less than 50% of our students receive financial aid. So it would impact at least 50% of current college students, Lane students. Steve?
If the motion, which I don't fully understand, fails, I would, pursue the idea that we just simply let it drop tonight and allow Dr. Bolger and her team to meet with board members, get a better understanding of where people are at, and be prepared to come back in, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, whatever it is.
We have a meeting in 2 weeks,
And
the work session.
if it's needed sooner in order to get, in order to keep on track with the responsibilities that, were explained, then that would be fine too.
I would like to move us to a vote on this motion. Lisa, do you have a comment that affects the motion?
Yes, I just would like to state that I can't meet in a week, but that if we're going to meet in 2 weeks, then we have the option to do a special meeting. So, but I can't meet in a week.
Got it. Austin, a final comment, and then we'll vote.
So the chair's budget, and Brett, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the co-chair's budget is the lowest budget that proposal that has been made for community colleges. Right?
So far.
Yeah, so far. Yeah. So Holly, the budget, the 5% is based off of the co-chair's budget, which is the lowest proposed budget for community colleges thus far. And so, so that's why the president was saying along the lines of, yes, it's 5%. And if we can get some additional funds from the state, which is why at the very beginning I advocated and appealed to our state legislators to give community colleges more money in the community college support fund, because they're kind of forcing us into this option. So I really wanted to appeal to you, Steve, Rosie, Angela, to support this measure with the 5%, which is not the most ideal, but if we are able to get additional funding at a later date to potentially pursue option 3 and 4.
Okay, we're going to vote now. Bree, will you call the roll?
Yes. Mike Eister.
Aye.
Austin Fulnagi.
Aye.
Lisa Fragala.
Aye.
Holly Johnson.
Aye.
Steve Mittal.
Nay.
Rosie Pryor,
Nay.
Angela Van Cross.
No.
Thank you.
The motion carries. I would encourage President Bolger to pursue the suggestion that Steve has made regardless of this vote.
Certainly.
And be prepared to revisit this topic at our work session in 2 weeks.
Certainly.
So thank you, board members. Difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Hard one to have. Okay, brings us to our next action item, new programs. President Bolger.
Yes, I'll ask Dr. Tinkham to come to the podium. This has been presented to the board and Dr. Tinkham.
Absolutely. Good evening again. So at the work session, just 2 weeks ago, you heard proposals for 3 programs. One was the AAS degree in energy management. That is based on a program that we have currently, but it will be reorganized. And you heard from faculty member Robert Ebbage. He gave you an overview. We also heard about a front office support specialist certificate. And Rosie Lopez presented that information. That certificate will be offered through Career Pathways. And then we also are proposing a 1-year certificate in medical coding. And Rick Reardon provided a detailed summary of that program. We had a robust conversation just 2 weeks ago. I know that there were many questions asked, and I'm wondering if there are any questions about these programs.
Point of order question, are in the motion, do we have to do each and every one, or can it be for all 3 programs?
Good question. Legal counsel,
You can do them all at once. Excellent. Right.
would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make that motion,
Okay.
yes. And let me just make sure I got the wording of it right. I'd like to make a motion that the board approves the following new programs: Energy Management Associates of Applied Science degree, Front Office Support Specialist Certificate, and the Medical Coding Certificate.
Second.
Holly, second. Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I really appreciated the presentation last time, and these are their workforce needs. There's a high need for these. I like the vocational aspects of this as well to support vocational education and training. Additionally, with medical field growing the way it is and insurance becoming more and more complicated, the coding is absolutely necessary and also provides even remote opportunities for workers. I know working my job, a lot of people are looking for remote work and remote work options. So this is a great certificate program to help get you into those type of job openings that are out there.
Very good. Will you call the roll?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Fulnagi,
Aye.
Holly Fragala, Lisa Fragala. Aye. Holly Johnson,
Aye.
Steve Mittal,
Aye.
Rosie Pryor,
Aye.
Angela Van Cross.
No.
The motion carries. And congratulations on the new programs. And at this point in time, we're going to take a break. We'll reconvene this meeting at exactly 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the help.
Of course, of course. So now that that's done, there's no more voting.
Ready? I'm calling the meeting of the Lane Community College Board of Education back to order, please. And we will move to our first discussion item, which is scholarship ambassadors. President Bulger?
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce the LCC Foundation Executive Director, Wendy Jett, who will talk about the ambassadors and introduce them.
Great. I think Brett has our slide there. He's coming. There we go. So, and I'm not going to talk very long because we're going to have these fabulous students talk to you, but we did want to give you a brief overview about our scholarship programs through the LCC Foundation. We also have our friend Beth Landy here from the college side to talk about her work with our students as well, and then introduce you to some of our ambassadors. Well, I'll just give a really brief overview of what we do at the foundation in terms of scholarships. We have a fabulous longstanding program that has grown enormously over time. We award over $1 million in scholarships every year to our students. We're back up this year, this most recent cycle, to our pre-COVID application numbers. So I think that's fabulous and a really great thing for the future. Those numbers tend to be just under 900 applicants each year, and that $1 million is varying amounts, but we tend to award between 250 up to 300, depending on the packaging, in terms of the number of students we serve each year. Some of our scholarships are huge. We have some that cover, this year we had several that covered the entire cost of our LPN program, for example. We had 4 students who received just under $16,000 to cover their entire cost of that program. Amazing. We also have scholarships around $1,500. Most of our students, when they get packages from us, range between $2,000 and $5,000. So really giving them a great start for their financing of their education. This is our real community effort that we have at the foundation. Our scholarship coordinator works with nearly 70 community volunteers every year to read scholarship applications and score them. Those readers are trained and provided with lots of support during their month of scoring, and we tend to announce awards in June. So looking forward to that this year. We also have student assistance funds throughout the year, donors who give whether they're called emergency funds or student assistance funds, but essentially they're scholarships that are off cycle. And those are handled through LCC Student Affairs, as well as some specific departments if those funds are restricted to those departments as well. So that is a very, very brief snapshot of our program. And I want to introduce Katie Gatland, who's our annual gifts officer and who coordinates our Scholarship Ambassador program, to talk a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Katie, as Wendy said, and I'm really lucky because one of the parts of my job is to work with our foundation ambassadors. So this program was started in 2016, and it's really a way to showcase our scholarship recipients and be able to be able to share their Lane story as well as what getting a scholarship has meant to them. So this is a picture of our group this year from our big event in the fall. And we end up finding these amazing students based on feedback from the volunteer readers who score applications and make notes about people doing amazing things. So next. Oh, no, you got it. So for the criteria to be an ambassador, it's really simple. They have to maintain the same criteria as the scholarship that they were awarded. But they're amazing. And so that's usually not an issue at all. They have to be enrolled for the whole academic year because we use them throughout the year to help market their stories. And they do stuff like this. So you can see they're at our foundation events. It's really fun to be able to put them in front of donors and have that interaction. They'll do student panels, and then obviously we have them into speaking engagements like this. Yeah, next one. And the benefits for the ambassadors, these are some of the pictures from the ambassadors who aren't here with us tonight. And what's really nice for them is it's a recognition of their hard work and it's a recognition of their successful scholarship application. It's really great for them to have on their resume. They get a lot of good experience. We do professional photo shoots with them, both for marketing, but also so they have a headshot going on. And then just an opportunity to engage with donors, but also other students. So we really activate them to share their scholarship story and encourage their classmates to apply early in the year. So before I hand it over to the students, I want to have Beth come up and share a little bit about her experience with scholarships.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Landy. I'm a longtime, notice the gray hair, faculty member and career counselor at Lane. This is my 25th year, and much of my work has involved helping students research and apply for scholarships. I now live with Tina Hunter on the second floor of Building 1, kind of in our newly formed Scholarship and Employment Services office. We're all about show me the money is our tagline. So what Katie and Wendy wanted me to talk to you about, and I think there's a slide. Brad, yeah. This is a quote from me, and Katie and Wendy asked me to come and share a little bit more about what I meant by that. The very act of applying for scholarships transforms students' lives. It becomes so much more than the money. The money is fabulous, of course, and we've got to support our students financially. But I have watched hundreds, if not thousands, and been with hundreds, if not thousands of students at this point, watching them craft these scholarship applications, and something magical happens as they are taking these huge stories about who they are and having to write them in 170-word statements. And you can imagine the kinds of stories that our students come in with, right? They're coming in with stories about earning their GED while in prison, experiencing homelessness, leaving a domestic violence situation, the experience of overcoming trauma in their past, overcoming addiction and being clean and sober. I mean, they come in with huge stories that are this big. And my typical response to them after hearing their stories, and it's such an honor to do that, is, wow, what an amazing, powerful story. I'm going to help you get that story into 2 sentences. And they look at you like, are you kidding me? Absolutely. Why? Because the focus of these statements that the foundation has you write is not necessarily on the story. It is about how that inspired you in your career goals and your career direction, how you made a difference in the life of your family or in your community, how that experience in your life and the kinds of skills and strengths you use to make that experience happen, or how it's transformed you and what you learned about yourself. So again, something magical happens in the process of writing these stories that stays with these students long past getting the money and graduating from Lane. The confidence they develop in themselves, the way they're able to reframe what could be kind of negative experiences in their lives into something that gives them the power. The power is no longer in this experience, it's within them. It's just such an honor to do this work. And I just wanted to leave you with one student's example. This is from years ago, and it may sound dramatic, but I think you'll get my point. She submitted her Lane Foundation application. She looked at me and she said, writing those 7 personal statements moved me further in my healing process. And she had experienced a lot of various forms of abuse in her childhood. Writing that application moved me further in my healing process than my last 10 years of therapy. So I thought you might want to hear just a little bit about what it's like to actually work with these fabulous students. And now I'm done with the mic and you get to hear from them. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Penny. I'm currently a botany major. I'll be transferring from here at Lane after around 10 terms, starting over in the ABSC department. Now moving on as a transfer student to Oregon State University. I'll be minoring as well in Indigenous Studies. Last couple summers, I've had internships with different universities around the country, and this summer I'll be interning at UH Hilo in Hawaii, doing research there on plants of all things. Yeah, so I'm also the secretary, of the council of clubs here at the school. And I'm a treasurer for the Green Science Club here on campus, working with the University of California's Agriculture and Natural Resources Division, looking at fire suppression and mitigation in Southern Oregon and Northern California. And I volunteer with a few different organizations here in the area. I'm not really telling you these things just to show my interests in what I'm doing as a student, but also trying to convey like how important scholarships are at allowing students to engage with our communities that we're a part of. And I think that maybe now more than ever, the importance of students being able to engage with one another on campuses and within our communities is pretty prevalent and here. I think, with scholarships kind of being able to remove those individual stressors that we experience, we're able to find different facets that we plug into on campus and help our future selves as well with how we are able to navigate those small nuances that we don't always think about that is a big part of the schooling process. I believe scholarships and their awards bring us closer to having the capacity to engage in this incredibly important manner. And the impacts of scholarships aren't necessarily just bound to our individual income and needs, but also to our communities and how we interact with them. I just wanted to communicate that. It's not necessarily just about the individual, but also everyone that we engage with.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marissa Robb, and I'm a second-year student here at LCC, and I am studying to be a nurse midwife. And I'm going to be continuing on to the program for nursing through Lane. Thank you for having me here tonight to speak to you about what it means to be a recipient of the Lane Foundation scholarships and as well as being an ambassador. I'm not your traditional student. I'm a 31-year-old mother of 2 young boys. And in the fall of 2021, I decided to go back to school because I knew I was going to be a single mom soon. And the work that I've done for 13 years doing private hospice care as a CNA just wasn't going to be doable with 2 young boys. So I decided to take a leap of faith and go back to school to become a nurse midwife. I chose this path because my first son was born at home, and it was the most empowering and magical experience of my life. I think it's important for underserved communities to have these experiences when giving birth. Sadly, this is often not the case due to institutionalized racism. Statistics currently state that Black women giving birth are 3 times more likely to die than any other demographics. So my goal is to lessen that gap. When I received the Haugland Family Foundation Scholarship, it was a much welcome gift. It not only was an acknowledgement of the hard work that I've been putting into my studies, but it was financially appreciated. It helps to know that I'm being recognized for my academic efforts and that I have people rooting for me to succeed. Receiving scholarships like these for students like me who are non-traditional single parents juggling a small business and working towards the long-term goal of long-term degree goals has a huge impact on the success of our educational careers. Foundations like this motivate and help students to achieve their goals. And I just want to say thank you to the Lane Foundation for creating these opportunities for students like me. And thank you for listening to me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak along these amazing people. My name is Isaac, and I'm taking the CNC manufacturing courses here at Lane. My goal is to one day start my own machine shop and grow a manufacturing business that's large enough to strengthen our community, create more jobs. Last term was my first term here at Lane and first time taking college classes in person. I consider myself lucky to have been able to serve in the Army and earn the GI Bill, an opportunity I was quick to jump on. In fact, the day my commander released me, he let me go a little bit early just because I was really good to him. And I jumped in my car. I was in El Paso, Texas. I grabbed a couple energy drinks and I drove down here. It was a 25-hour drive. Right after that, I went to sleep, showed up to class the next day. Much to the surprise of my instructor, he wasn't expecting me for another week. And yeah, so I quickly faced for myself the reality that I had been warning all my soldiers about before they went into the real world. And that's that you have to actually pay for your food and your housing in the real world. And that's very expensive. After talking to my new peers, learning how each student faces their own challenges. For example, I have to help support my family. Other people are struggling to pay their rent or pay for their car, especially being young adults where sometimes it can be tempting to just go into the fast food industry that's sometimes paying more than these entry-level technical careers. And I realized how important contributions such as grants and scholarships can be to making sure that we actually write out our tuition plans and jump into these awesome careers that will improve our communities. And even with the GI Bill, I myself find it hard to stay afloat. And I got a grant last term that actually really helped me out. It was about $1,000, and it helped me to stay afloat with all the real world needs that I wasn't facing in the Army. Even though I'm used to hunkering down and, just getting the mission done, it's nice to be able to have that relief and be able to focus more on my education versus just daily needs. And I also see them as an event. I see these grants and scholarships as an investment into me and to our community. That way, one day I can return the favor with my success and pass on grants and scholarships to the next generation of students. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alexander Perry. I'm currently in the technical career pathways for machine technology. I'm in the same program as him. My goal is eventually to become a CNC machinist and to work at Boeing in the aerospace industry. I received the scholarship from the Gene Haas Foundation last term, and it was strangely life-changing. I didn't expect how much it would change my life. Prior to that point, I had been in one way or another making money every day of the week. I have a part-time job. I work with the school in the Learn and Earn. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Learn and Earn is what it's called. I go to school full-time. I donated plasma, and every day I was doing something to just live. And not even that, I still was racking credit card debt. I have a car that I'm under in. It was a lot, and the grant helped me. Just if for anything, a break. I was going to school stressed. I barely slept, I should say. And my projects that I was working on were lacking because of it. And it really helped me. And I'm very, very grateful that I got the opportunity to receive it. I got to pay off everything. I'm okay. I got to actually install headlights onto my car. They had burnt out and were toast. I could only use brights or drive during the day. I got to replace those a few weeks ago. And things like that really help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to all of you, humble apologies for keeping you here an hour and a half past the start of our meeting. I hope you will look back on the conversations you listened to and consider it sort of an educational experience about all the thought and passion and dedication that goes into guiding Lane along the way. Thank you for your service to Lane, in addition to all your hard work as students, and best of luck to all of you. Now, go home and do your homework.
Yeah.
We are moving on to, oops, we did the audit already. We're moving on to board evaluation. So board members, in your packet tonight was a draft board evaluation instrument. Angela and I endeavored to try to collaborate, and she may have some feedback for me herself. Ultimately, we just upped and decided to put a start point in your packet to see if that feels like the kind of instrument you may like to use. If you'll recall, during our fall retreat last fall, our consultant, our facilitator encouraged us to tie the board evaluation instrument more closely to our adopted goals, the president's goals, and so forth. I welcome your feedback. My suggestion to expedite things would be that now that you have a draft that you can edit on, that you take it home tonight and email me any suggested changes, deletions, additions, edits, whatever. I will work with Angela to finalize an instrument, and we can get it out to board members for your use before the end of the month. Angela?
Thank you, Rosie. I wanted to acknowledge that you did all of the heavy lifting on this and that the collaboration really one-sided. I really appreciate the work that you put into it, and I intend to be more helpful going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, and then, the board will ultimately complete whatever finalized instrument we come up with and get the results out to each of you in, I think it's May that it says in our packet. And then it'll be typically, historically, has been a topic for discussion in the July retreat. So that's sort of the game plan. So again, please take this to heart, give feedback. If there are questions you think have no merit, just let us know what they are. If there are questions you feel are missing, let us know what they are. We can edit this like crazy and finalize it and get it out to you. And if you don't respond to me, I'm going to be haunting you in email. Does that work for everybody? Okay, then we will move on to, I think, our last item, which is tutoring and learning zones. President Bolger.
Yes, thank you. This is our final presentation for the evening, and I'll ask Dr. Tinkham to introduce it.
Good evening again. Academic Affairs offers an umbrella of academic support services across several learning centers on our campuses. And this is part of these wraparound services that are just so important for our student success. This includes online tutoring, and it also includes our STEM learning zone here on the main campus. Jen Kepka is here with us tonight. She is the director of academic and tutoring services. She's been with the institution now for 12 years. She began at Lane as a faculty member. Tonight, she's going to provide you with an overview of those services and guide you through what they do day to day. She'll be providing you with some data and an example of those services and some plans for the future.
All right, thank you. So I guess I'm going to do some tutoring in what we do in tutoring tonight, which is a service we provide for free to students. So we also provide free to the board. And there is the next slide, but it looks like Brett is busy. So on the slide, you'll see actually a picture of Tutor Central. As we go through, you'll see pictures of all of our spaces. So it's a virtual tour as well. So who seeks tutoring and academic support? Students at any level, credit and non-credit at Lane, come to us from a variety of places. Referral is how we get most students, faculty referral, peer referral, and then campus connections like early outreach are vital to getting students into our centers. But students also find us because they walk by tutoring centers near their classes. They search for us online. And then we do outreach to classes each term to let students know we're here and we're ready to help, whether it's brainstorming ideas or the day before the exam when you realize you're in over your head. All right, next slide. So the picture up there is the CIT lab. That is one of 4 spaces we have on the Lane campus. Business Resource Center is in building 19. CIT lab as pictured also in building 19. The STEM learning zone is in building 16. And then Tutor Central is in the center building. We also have an online support hub that's open 6 days a week. And we have a space in the downtown center. And then we are hoping to start tutoring on the Florence campus later this term. So we really try to meet students both where their classes meet and where they are, and also when they would like support. So we provide support online 6 days a week, on campus 5 days a week, including new evening hours this term. Our online hub is open into the evening twice a week and on Saturdays. And then for the hours, the few hours that we aren't open during the week, we work with a consortium of other colleges to provide support as early as 6 o'clock in the morning and as late as 11 o'clock at night. And that includes holidays and weekends as well. And then we also provide some asynchronous support so students can email in questions, get replies later. Oh, and that's Tutor Central again. So our staff has both academic coaches, that's part-time hourly classified staff, and peer tutors who are our student tutors. Academic coaches help with building strategic study habits, planning, connecting with faculty, making connections on campus and referrals. And they also mentor our peer tutors who are students who are currently, who've just passed the classes that they're tutoring in. So they have that immediate experience with the courses they're taking. And we have about 20 academic coaches and anywhere from 15 to 25 peer tutors per term. So every light bulb represents a center that we have on campus, including our online support, and then the arrows sort of point to Florence and downtown. One of the projects we've been working on for the last few years is centralizing tutoring and training so that whether you show up downtown or online or in building 16, the tutors have received the same level of training. So all of our tutors, whether they're students or staff, go through about 12 hours of initial training. And we work with as many as we can to get up to at least a level 1 certification through the College Reading and Learning Association. That is the Business Resource Center at the top in building 19. So in each of these centers, we provide drop-in and scheduled tutoring for students. We do individual and small group sessions. And then our tutors will also go to classes and support projects within the classes. So if there's a presentation day, small group day, they help with that. They hold conversation groups for our English language learning students. They hold workshops to help people with citations or brainstorming. Some of the centers do resource lending. So graphing calculators are very popular. We sometimes help students with makeup testing. And then there's space to practice upcoming presentations, study for exams, and meet with your small groups. And that is the STEM learning zone, the opening to it. Benefits of tutoring, well, students fare better when they've had academic support. But there are some intangible benefits as well. When they visit our centers, whether they're online or on campus, they're building a connection to campus. So they're more likely to purposely come back and study here and to meet their classmates and to come back the next term. Our tutors have curriculum knowledge. They have connections to the faculty. They know the classes. They know what's important to emphasize in a study session. And providing tutoring at no cost to students is it provides equitable access. There are private tutors. They're extremely expensive. And as you heard earlier tonight, there are online means to find answers to exams. Our tutors are trained to uphold Lane's academic integrity standards, not to help if somebody brings in a quiz, but to help them prepare for the quiz before they get it. And then up there, you see the Lane Support Hub, all the little Zoom boxes. So these are comments from students that we received just in the last month. We survey people after they meet with our tutors, so we have at least an idea of how things are going. I guess I'll go ahead and read them to you. So thanks to, this was a math tutor, I feel more confident in my class and went from a C- to an A- in my exam score. Thanks. Someone else wrote, after meeting with a tutor, I have a new hope and a better outlook. I am grateful. I promise we didn't bribe them or anything. These were just random feedback that we received last month. Someone else said, so glad to have this resource. I just wish I'd started utilizing this earlier in my studies. We hear that a lot. And then thank you all for being available on the weekends. I can't always get my homework done during the week, so it's nice to have questions answered on the weekends. Tutor Central, again, you can see because it's actually says Tutor Central 3 times in that picture. We like to label the spaces. In winter, we saw thousands of appointments. We registered 300 and almost 50 new people to our system. That's people who'd never visited tutoring before, who made new appointments. That represents about 1,500 hours of tutoring provided by our staff. Year to date, and this was before this week, 4,500 appointments with students on campus and online, 800 new students registered, and 3,000 hours of tutoring provided. That's an increase over where we were last year. And for the last few years, even when enrollment has been down, we've seen tutoring either hold steady or increase slightly. So our demand from students has remained pretty stable. This is a pie chart that's partly blocked, that's okay. Math and science are the areas where we see the most appointments. Ah, thank you. Followed by English language learning, writing. That can be writing classes or writing papers for any subject. So social science, science reports, math, business, and CIT. And that's by numbers of appointments that we've seen in these areas. And then we're slowly evening out on campus and online, but we do still see more students asking for online appointments than on campus. This may be because it's pretty convenient to be at home at 6 o'clock at night and helping make dinner. And also I have a math question, and so I hop onto Zoom and I get it answered. And then I can go back to my family or my homework or whatever. So I have talked very fast. Here's what we're planning for the future. We have a learning center planning group organized right now. One of the things we'll be doing this spring is surveying students. We're actually hoping to get answers from the students who don't use tutoring about how we could better serve them, how we can get connected in additional classes, particularly CTE areas. Next fall, we'll have a restructured course embedded tutoring program, which is where tutors, like it says, are embedded in a class. They're there, students get to know them, they become part of the class structure. And then we'll just be continuing to search for other areas that we can support or expand academic support in. And that was Tutor Central again in the picture.
Austin?
2 questions. First off, thank you again for the presentation. I'm not a smart person. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my tutoring center that I went to in college. So thank you for this presentation. Are online tutoring sessions, is that also easy for the tutor to serve a larger number of students?
So it's what we have found. So we pivoted completely to online for the pandemic, and actually found it to be a very successful medium. It does take a different skill set to tutor over Zoom, and some of our tutors have really flourished in that environment. they're able to do things in Zoom that I'm not, and I'm an educational technology major. You know, they're drawing their equations, they're sharing documents, they're moving between meetings, they're helping more than one person at a time. So the flexibility of that technology has been great. And it has allowed us some scheduling flexibility with people as well. So students moving between classes have been able to do some support between times. And then we're also assisted by, we have an actual virtual front desk that helps direct students when they come in with questions. And we share the space with the student help desk. So we can do technology help right there, then tutoring help. We have one of our front desk hosts hanging out over there tonight.
Fantastic. I have a second question. The locations, you were mentioning, you know, obviously some students come to for a tutoring session because they see it as they walk by a class. So were these locations of these different tutoring centers, was that based off of just like flow of students? Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the locations.
So as part of our consolidation process, these are learning centers that existed, and many of them have existed for many years. And then we've been slowly moving the administration of the centers into ATS, which is tutoring services. So yes, they're very close to the departments. The STEM zone is in the heart of Building 16. If you walk out of a math class, you're probably near it. Business Resource Center, right down the hall from all of the faculty in most of their classes. Tutor Central is located near the library and the coffee shop. So that's where we like to see people congregate, but also in the center building. So at the heart of activity. And then the CIT lab is right in the middle of the computer information area. Their study rooms are right there. Their front desk is right there. It's really a beautiful space with lots of computers to borrow and program. And yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Holly, and then Mike.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. That is so awesome. I get all warm and fuzzy inside when I know that there are academic support services for students and especially tutoring centers. That's awesome. Just quick question. How are your tutors compensated, or are they work study students? Are they recruited? Are they compensated at all?
Yes, great question. So we do not have any volunteers. Everyone is compensated. It's through a couple of different programs. So we have part-time hourly staff. Those are professional educators, some of whom are even former instructors here who have come back because they miss being in the classroom, they miss the student interaction, they want to help. And then our students are funded through the Learn and Earn Technology Fund and also Federal Work Study, and through international programs. Actually, they provide us some funding to hire some international students to work in the tutoring center each year. So yes, everybody's compensated.
Thank you.
And paid for training too. So tell your friends, it's a great job.
Okay, thank you. And go Florence. Happy to hear that Florence is going to get the services too. So thank you.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Mike?
I didn't have a question. I'm good.
Any other board questions or comments, Lisa?
Thank you very much for this report. I was just curious in terms of if we look at a historical perspective of these resources on campus, how the service has fluctuated. Has it increased in the last 10, 15 years? It sounded like you've been here quite a while.
So I've been here quite a while, but only with tutoring for 2 years.
Okay.
And my actual role as director is new since August. But I think it would be a little hard to give you a accurate answer on that because the consolidation of tutors just happened as the pandemic was setting in. So there was a contraction of services and we've been rebuilding capacity since then. But I don't historically, one of the things we've done with the consolidation of tutoring is we have centralized record keeping, which did not exist before. So we've been able to track every appointment in every center and collect FTE from that, which was not happening for all of the centers before 2020.
Can I follow up with that?
Sure.
So I actually used tutoring services when I was here as a student. I won't say how long ago. I found it to be very, very helpful. And I really think that the services like tutoring and other wraparound services are critical to the success of students here. So Dr. Bolger, I have a question for you based on an earlier conversation. If we were not passing a tuition increase, would these be the types of services that we might be faced with cutting at the college?
Unfortunately, everything would be on the table. It would be services. It could be services like this. It could be programs. It could be salaries. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
We had, you're probably aware, right, some feedback from folks perhaps who work with you about one of the a particular tutoring center. I'm going to fail to remember which one precisely. I'm sure you must know. And I'm, but concerns about the number of hours and the number of staff in those and being overburdened, that kind of thing. I'm wondering if you can give us some context with which to, think about those kinds of concerns. My thought anyways was that we didn't have the context at the time. We had a concern about one particular center out of many. We didn't, we weren't thinking about the online support or the consolidation that was happening or the plans, to meet the need. So if you could give us some sense of that.
Yeah, I can, you can jump in if I get anything wrong here. I think, so the concerns I think were raised around the STEM learning zone in particular.
I think that's right.
For this spring, at least, we've been able to expand the hours there through some collaboration with the science, math, and engineering area. We've brought some of their front desk staff into academic and tutoring services. So now it's open 5 days a week, and we've reopened for an evening. And I think that's addressed most of the concerns about being open when students were looking for support. We're operating in a hybrid environment when in the past we'd been able to be completely in person and then completely online. So figuring out the balance of where to be when has been tricky this year, but I think, for the moment, we've got the balance right, and we'll continue to adjust through the summer and next fall.
Very good.
One more question.
One more question.
I was curious if the ITS is part of this program, the system.
It's so I'm also the director for that. It's separate from tutoring, but some of the centers do provide some makeup testing service and some limited testing service. So the STEM learning zone, students are able to go there and retake tests. ITS operates separately in the center building and provides proctored testing for exams across the campus. But yeah, separate entity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very informative report. And as a communications professional retired, I would like to compliment you on your fabulous PowerPoint presentation. Very well done. One of the best I've seen. Thank you.
I had a lot of help, so thank you.
Well done. Okay, we have a number of reports. The first from student government. Welcome.
All right. Good evening, Board of Education and President Bolger. Firstly, before we give our report, I want to address the proposed 5% tuition increase. So admittedly, we were not prepared to talk about this, but I would like to address this and present the feedback that I gave to college administration to the board. So firstly, I'd like to inform the board that the Budget Development Subcommittee and College Council voted on recommending an increase of 2% and 3.5%. When the board was presented to vote on a 5% increase in tuition, I was surprised at the specific increase because it was not discussed or voted on. The feedback I provided to college administration was that no student would be in agreement with an increase in tuition, but students would acknowledge that a tuition increase is necessary for college survival, but provided that the increase is not significant. I informed college administration that an increase of 5% or more would be a concern for any student. However, I was not made aware that this was the increase being considered. I do agree with Chair Pryor's statement that inflation does affect students too. Despite informing college administration that an increase of 5% may pass as acceptable, it is a major concern to students who live paycheck to paycheck. An increase in tuition without proportional increase to a student's paycheck may make it difficult for students to return to Lane. Ultimately, as a student government, we already understand that students struggle to support themselves with basic needs, and thus I feel a 5% increase in tuition will significantly impact enrollment negatively for the 2023-24 academic year, particularly with returning students. Moving forward with our initial report, on behalf of the Lane SGA, I have prepared a brief report entailing the work we've done in March and our plans for April. We are continuing with Warm Up Your Week this term as we received incredible feedback from our student body on the benefits of it during the winter term. For example, multiple students informed us that they did not have to worry about supplying lunch for themselves on the days that we hosted the event, which they said was a major help. We look forward to continuing with these events this term, and we hope it is sustained when our successes are voted in. Furthermore, on our events planning, our efforts to host our spring gala still hold strong, but have faced several challenges, including controversial and earnest conversations with our Senate and Student Life admin. Our biggest challenge has been the idea of how to serve both traditional and non-traditional students in one event. Our efforts to serve all students have resulted in us collaborating with our Student Life admin to plan a spring carnival later this term. The spring carnival will be an excellent an excellent community event that will be open for all Lane students and the general public. We hope that an event like this will also help bolster enrollment and allow early college students to meet their future friends. Moving on to our food insecurity efforts, I'm going to be leading a program to help combat the food insecurity that our student body faces. I'll be working closely with the Dean of Student Engagement, Carl Ye, who will help me lead efforts to support our student body in this matter. The program will involve support from various organizations on campus, including CARE, the Rainy Day Food Pantry, and Student Life and Leadership staff. Our external organization partnerships are also still intact. Vice President Amaya and I took a trip to Washington last month with the Oregon Student Association, OSA, and we met with the Washington Student Association, WSA. We spoke with student leaders of WSA to see how we can better improve OSA and form more partnerships with Oregon community colleges and universities. We also established a communication line for regional-based student advocacy, which we believe will help create unity among students on the West Coast. As we continue to bolster our statewide leadership, we are continuing to strengthen the future of the Lane SGA. Our Senate ratified and amended our amended bylaws for the 2023-24 academic year. Our proposed constitution has also been completed and will await ratification by ASLCC. Our election process has also begun, as Lane students can currently apply to run for the Lane SGA 2023-24 elections. The deadline to submit applications is this coming Sunday, and campaigning will begin during the third week of the term. We project elections will take place in the beginning of May, and our successors will be voted and begin shadowing our current SGA as we prepare to close out and hand over. The new elected officials will be introduced to the board in June. As we approach the end of our period in office, we look forward to the busy spring term ahead and to continue to support our student body in the best way possible. As always, I appreciate the time and efforts that the board has put into supporting us as a student government and our student body. We look forward to continuing to strengthen our relationship with the board and LCC leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. And representing LCCEA, Adrian Mitchell.
Good evening, members of the board and President Bulger. I'm going to address a few topics tonight, the college's fiscal condition, some LCCEA updates, and legislative advocacy. I hope you will take the time to review the full report that I provided in board docs. Regarding LCC's fiscal condition, the college has a significant long-term debt, which has a negative influence on the viability ratio. You heard from the consultants that the viability ratio represents 35% of the CFI. The debt presented in the external consultants report shows that there's $25 million in debt at the end of last year, and more than half of that debt is from Titan Court. At the end of last year, LCC owed $13,345,000 in principal on Titan Court, with interest projected at more than $4 million. LCC will have to pay $439,300 over 13 more years in order to free itself from this burden. So this is one of the pieces that's impacting our fiscal condition, and we don't have the funds to pay for it. We have the rents coming in from Titan Court, but they're insufficient to pay both the principal and the interest. $500,000 to $700,000 comes out of the general fund to pay for this debt each and every year. That's impacting tuition. That's impacting all of the pressures on the budget. There are some charts and graphs in the presentation for you to review if you have a chance, and that would be wonderful if you could take some time to review it. In addition to addressing Titan Court debt, one of the options could be to figure out a way to sell some other property that the college owns. We have abundant property, much of which is unused, that could pay off the debt, resulting in a revenue generating asset, which could be repurposed, at least in part, to provide housing to low-income, housing insecure, and houseless students who comprise 14% of LCC student population, according to the 2021 HOPE survey. In addition, one of the other factors in the ratio that the external consultants presented about has to do with our facilities burden and our aging buildings. This is really important to address in a post-pandemic era. It would be most helpful to have a 0 square foot analysis conducted and a building capacity utilization analysis. Considering the total square footage needs of the campus in a post-pandemic era is necessary to correctly match total space to actual need, and then to prioritize deferred maintenance for the size of the campus that LCC now needs. I'd also like to address the student to faculty ratio. So that's one of the issues that was reported as one of the recommendations. So this has been impacted by a variety of factors. First, enrollment decline due to the pandemic, which affected community colleges nationwide. In addition, multiple modality offerings. In some transfer disciplines, post-pandemic students are largely choosing online over in-person instruction, and in-person sections run at lower capacities but must be maintained in order to provide access to students who do need the in-person sections. In addition, there has been an increase in the percentage of non-instructional faculty. At the enrollment peak, 8.8% of contracted faculty positions were non-instructional, while 12.1% are today. This represents a 37.5% increase. Non-instructional faculty fulfill critical functions on our campus, including instructional design, athletic director, librarians, and open educational resource specialist, which helps keep costs down for students and reducing the reliance on textbooks. In addition, by comparison, LCC has a broader definition of faculty, especially when compared to four-year public and private institutions that are also using the CFI. So for example, we have many different categories of faculty who would not be considered faculty at other institutions. These include the athletic director, coaches, trainer, mental health clinicians, nurses, etc. Finally, social distancing was required by public health guidelines for most of FY22, also impacting the student to faculty ratio last year. Some other considerations related to the ratios. The consultants reviewed only the faculty to student ratio and no other ratios, explaining that faculty are critical to the mission in the classroom, but based upon a stated assumption that faculty are the institution's, quote, highest expense, unquote. However, at LCC, contracted faculty comprised less than 42% of all contracted employee salaries, according to the list of all positions, all employee groups from all funds provided by the Budget Office for this year. In addition, further analysis of positions from this fiscal year indicates that for every one manager at LCC, there are only 2.9 contracted faculty FTE, a slight increase in the already heavy management staffing level reported last year. This is exacerbated by the continuing creation of new high-level administrative positions. For instance, 1 year ago, LCC had 2 vice president positions. Last May, 1 vice president's assignment was reduced and a new vice president for student affairs position was created. Last month, a new vice president for IT was created, doubling the number of VP positions to 4. All of these considerations impact the fiscal condition. Briefly, a few LCCEA updates regarding retrenchments. We are happy that the administration has rescinded its notice of retrenchment in political science, preserving a critically important discipline. For sociology, however, LCCEA presented a plan meeting all the interests indicated by the administration, with 1 faculty member taking a voluntary unpaid leave in order to allow the least senior faculty member to maintain some portion of their assignment in sociology in order to ensure better long-term continuity for the program. The college declined the offer of voluntary unpaid leave, losing the savings and salary on salary and OPE that were offered, which is unprecedented. We're currently bargaining with the college regarding impacts of Common Course numbering. These new state mandated changes impact our course curriculum, which has significant impacts on workload. Thus far, the administration has not recognized the workload impacts. On a positive note regarding campus safety, LCCEA and LCCEF have collaboratively agreed with the administration to waive the requirement for remote options during spring conference so that we can have in-person training to be better prepared for a lockdown. While we have been informed that it will take at least 3 to 5 years to install high-tech locks in all classrooms, we are very much encouraged that there are new plans to install basic, kind of more low-tech, regular locks on the doors to all classrooms in the meantime. And last but not least, we had a very, very wonderful and fun event in the cafeteria in March where we were promoting funding for community colleges and the Oregon Opportunity Grant. Dozens of students and community members stopped by to send automatic messages to their legislators in order to advocate for increased funding. And thank you to everyone who participated in that event. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, Adrian. And representing LCCEF, Frankie Kokenor. Hi, Frankie.
Hi, Rosie. Thank you very much for having me tonight. I'll just go ahead and start off. My name is Frankie Kokenor, the president of LCCEF, and my pronouns are she and hers. As many of you may be aware, LCCEF and the college entered into bargaining our full contract March 21st. What I'm going to do is share a small sample of comments that members of our bargaining team shared with the college regarding items that we know are important to the classified professionals we represent. Classified professionals keep the college functioning on all the levels that students expect. We keep classrooms with functioning technology, a clean, safe environment for student learning. We help students at every level from their first visit to campus to evaluating and awarding their degrees. We help recruit them, give them the tools to begin and encourage them into their first classes. We help them choose their first steps on their path and learn how to pay for it. We give them both the online portal and the people to guide them as they register for their classes. We are here to help them access resources to keep going. And when they are completing their degrees, classified professionals award them, send transcripts out, and set up the stage for the graduation ceremony. Inflation is at 7 to 8%. Those of us working at Lane are often working paycheck to paycheck. Classified employees are among the lowest earners at the college. We have attended Lane or our family members have. We love Lane, but we are struggling. Many are working multiple jobs taking on roommates to stretch our pay. We often hear classified workers needing SNAP and food boxes just to get by. It feels shameful that they qualify for this because of their income, while also doing so much of the hard work of supporting students in their success. On May 2nd of 2008, the college and current administration signed an MOA to cut off a job security. Anyone hired after that date has no real job security or can be laid off or fired for any reason. Let's be clear, that means 212 of the 289 contracted classified professionals currently working at LCC have no job security. There's research that shows the lack of job security creates a very anxiety-filled environment that often leads to mistakes. Another one of our bargaining priorities is to promote work and job flexibility. At the beginning of the pandemic, we created solutions to continue doing our job. One really great thing was remote work that increased job flexibility. Many of us feel that we are more productive at home. Most managers have an office with a door that closes. Most classified employees work in a common shared workspace that can't be blocked for sound under fluorescent lights with no options for privacy. While these shared spaces can be great for collaboration, there are some tasks such as answering phone calls, Zoom meetings, and processing data in background systems that are often more effectively done in a quieter setting and as well as more comfortable and less costly for employees. We also have issues with workload. We have an employee that was hired into a position where there were 5 other employees, but is now the only one in the department doing the work of 6 employees. This is not sustainable for the individual employee, but it means that students are also underserved, this employee worked through holidays, weather closures, etc., to handle the workload. And that's happening to multiple classified employees across this campus, not just that employee. Another priority is safety. People want to feel safe at work. They want to have safe spaces to hide and have more information and training about what specific responses should be in each potential situation. And they want more support for our public safety, who protect us all in emergencies. As we listen to the discussions of our esteemed board and our President Bolger regarding financial difficulties going forward, Lane has been here before. Many of us put huge parts of our lives and our hearts into making Lane Community College strong and a place of success for our entire community. Our creativity helped Lane get through a pandemic. We suggest that Lane's successes would not have been possible without strong and well-compensated classified professionals giving our knowledge, our experience, and our support to the overall goal of student success. And we ask that this be remembered and that we are considered an equal branch of the tree that gives its fruit to the entire community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frankie. Board, you have a number of information reports in your packet. Are there board questions or comments about any one of the information reports received this month? Looks like they were pretty thorough. We can move on to good of the order. The future meeting dates and agenda items are identified in your packet. We are working on, at some point, not a calendar, but at least a list of topics so that board members will have some reassurance that things they've expressed an interest in are under consideration. I don't know whose hand went up first.
Mine's quick. I just wanted to clarify the retreat date in July. Was that the 22nd or the 15th?
22nd is what I recollect.
Okay, so
but there was some discussion about the interest in potentially having a Friday afternoon and evening before, as well as the Saturday. And I think the Saturday is the 22nd. So that would mean the 21st and the 22nd.
Okay. I had it in two different places on my calendar, so.
Well, straighten that out.
And then I think
Austin?
I accidentally canceled the one that Celia.
Yeah, don't cancel the wrong one.
Yeah, I think I might have.
Yeah.
So it's the 22nd.
Austin?
A few things. So, and I've forgive me, I forgot to mention this in the last board meeting, but in regards to the bond oversight committee opening that we have, there was no applicants during the time period that we had the application open. We might need to discuss this, but I would maybe do a recommendation that we extend that time period to allow for more applications to be submitted and to give us a little bit more time to reach out to our community for applicants. Additionally, I went to the powwow. That was a wonderful event. I am wearing their shirt for this year. It was great to see fellow board members there as well. And I had some great conversations with NASA students, with elders in regards to land acknowledgements. And I think this might be a topic that we might want to discuss at the board retreat or in a future board meeting. I'd love to get the feedback from NASA students to the board, as well as maybe even including like the diversity committee or any sort of committees that can draw from Native communities. So yeah, just wanted to just share that part of my conversation when I went to the powwow this weekend. So overall, thank you for this wonderful time.
Awesome. Yes, Steve.
I just wanted to suggest that going forward as a matter of procedure, we always invite our student body president to speak at the podium before we take a tuition decision.
Okay. I would like to ask that at some subsequent, maybe board work session, I would value some education around faculty job descriptions. There was testimony earlier this evening about proctored testing, in particular with respect to online classes. And so I found myself wondering, is the faculty person who teaches the class, is that person charged with responsibility for any testing of students as a result of that class? Or is that delegated to someone else in a testing center? And if that's the case, I would benefit from learning more about why is that? Why is that not the responsibility of the faculty person teaching the class? I'm just reflecting on my own experience 1,000 years ago as a student, where when I took a test, it was the teacher I was taking the class from who administered the test. So I just will benefit from being brought up to speed about how things seem to be or potentially are different now, and what impact that has on our resources as an organization. So I would be grateful to learn about that in a subsequent work session. Oh, thank you. Holly?
Thank you. I just have to go back with what Steve just said. And I know Trustee Fonagi has also mentioned something along the lines before of us having more of a rapport with our student government. And I have to say, I am pretty shocked about the comments that I just heard not too long ago from our president, from the student government, because I did inquire and ask if they were aware of our conversations or the proposed tuition hike. And so to hear that, I'm a little shocked. So I also would like to piggyback on what Steve just said, that we have our student government leadership have more of a voice and a presence at our meetings. And yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Any other comments or questions from board members? Oh, thank you. I almost forgot. I asked Brett to help me with this because I knew I would bungle it, but I just don't think we can possibly adjourn tonight's meeting without paying some homage to our women's basketball team for winning the Northwest Athletic Conference. Woo-hoo! And to Bella Hamill, who was awarded the Baden Athlete of the Year for women's basketball, the first Titan, male or female, to win the award. Way to go, Bella. And with that, we're adjourned.